Awesome. Okay. We're going to try to do Isaiah 52:13. And we have here verse 13. Yeshua, I just pray that you bless us. Help us to understand this. You're our rabbi. We love you. Enlighten us. Help us to do this. Help us to respond to this with our members and our hands and our mouth and our eyes and our ears. Not just have some kind of internal private feeling reaction. Help us to move differently. I do pray that our hearts would be in it. I don't ask for empty movements, but I want this to change our actions. I ask in your name, Yeshua. Amen. Okay, so we're going to start with 52:13. This song we've been working through is, some scholars call it the fourth servant song. Okay, there are songs or poetical compositions within the work of Isaiah that depict this figure that is a servant. At times, you can see flavors that the servant is Israel, but also distinct from Israel, because the servant has to do something on behalf of Israel as an individual. Mm-hmm. So some kind of mediatorial servant. The Targums will deal with this song and just outright translate the servant as Mashiach. They say it's Mashiach. Mm-hmm. Mashiach. So we are going to start with the first verse of this fourth servant song, which is 52:13. And we have a formula that happens in Isaiah. The way that hine is employed, hine is a general kind of interjection. It just means, hey, look at this. Hey, look over there, right? Right there, something like this. Behold, hine. And it's a common enough interjection, but Isaiah, if you study carefully, there is a pattern. You even see it in this chapter in 52. And I'll demonstrate this. It's between verses 6 to 8. So why don't I pull up 52:6? Okay. There it is. So it's verse 6. Therefore they will know, or he will know, my people. It's in the singular. Therefore, my people will know my name. Okay. Therefore, in this very day, the day of this, because I am he, the one speaking, saying, Hineni, here I am. Hine, look at me. In other words, the interjection hine tends to be used as a device by Isaiah to say, look at God. Okay, typically when Yeshua says hine, he's trying to grab the reader's attention, or possibly even figures in the narration, and rest, W-R-E-S-T, rest, grab their attention and look at Yah. So the thing that Yeshua wants you to behold is the local Yahweh. Mm-hmm. The Shekinah, the glory, the kavod, the presence of God showing up and revealing himself. That's the idea of encountering God locally is a way that Isaiah links that. It makes sense because Isaiah is commissioned through a theophany, an appearance of God, mm-hmm. seeing God, right? And this idea is explored. It's not just for Isaiah. It's something God wants to do.
Is that Isaiah where he's in the temple and sees the gold figure?
That's correct. That is correct. That's chapter 6. So we went to Isaiah 52 verse 6, and we can see the pattern. Hineni, here I am. Yahweh is talking about the local Yahweh. Look, whenever, in other words, Isaiah has this, he tends to use this interjection to say, look at God. Look at Yahweh. Because people have eyes, but they're not seeing, ears, but they're not hearing. They're distracted. They're in the wrong place. They're looking all the wrong places. And the prophet is saying, you're not looking to God here. God needs to be here locally.
And in other words, Hineni would never be in reference to an animal, or it's meant to be used to call attention to God.
Okay. It is, well, no, you could. So I'm saying not Hineni, in the way you just said it jogged my memory. So because we talked about Isaiah 6, Hine is the interjection. If you conjugate it and add me to Hine, you're saying not just behold, you're saying behold me. Oh, and actually, when we see Hineni in chapter 6, it's not saying behold God. It's in the process of beholding God. God says, who will go for us? Speaking of the seraphim in the heavenly council, who will go for us? And Isaiah, Yeshaya, says, Hineni, shalachini. Hey, look at me. Send me. Okay. So this actually is helpful because there is still a direct interaction with the local Yahweh and its usage, but he's saying, behold me as a servant. Let me be your servant. Send me. This should teach you something. Isaiah has he's Deuteronomic. He has a weird understanding. He has written his work to be loaded or buttressed by Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy. Okay, it's the columns that hold up his work, so to speak. Deuteronomy ends on a very mysterious note and speaks of a servant, a representative of Moshe, of a representative that's going to step into a role like Moses, but he will be a Joshua figure. Joshua,
what?
somebody's coming.
Okay.
Somebody's coming, and they will rise up in Israel, and you better listen to this person. They're a servant, and you kind of see this because Moshe dies. He has to hand over the job, the baton, so to speak, to Yehoshua. Joshua. Yehoshua is there. Moshe and Yehoshua sing a song. It's this cryptic parable, a giant parable song. And Yahweh does it as an insurance and incentivizing. The people are going to blind themselves and deafen themselves and harden their hearts. Therefore, I'll make them memorize this song. Yehoshua and Moshe sing the song. Now, Yehoshua, his name means Yahweh is salvation. Yah is salvation. Moshe gave Yehoshua that name. Okay, he was Moshe's servant. Moshe's minister. And his name was Hoshea, which just means salvation. And he said, no, you're not going to be called that anymore. Your name's going to be Yehoshua. Yahweh salvation, not just salvation. Yahweh salvation. Let's put the divine name on him. Well, Isaiah's name, Yeshayah, is like the reversal of the meaning of Joshua's name. It just, instead of Yehoshua, Yah is salvation, it's salvation is Yah. Okay, same concept. His name is similar. The figure, so you can literally, Yeshayah is a prophet who's stepping into a Moshe-like role as a replacement, just like the end of Deuteronomy said it would. Chapter 6 is where he's commissioned. But this servant figure is going to do something like Isaiah, but be beyond Isaiah. Okay, that gives us this background. I'm giving you a background on the servant and the verb hine. So we jump now to our verse. We're going to go to verse 13. Hine, behold, God says hine. This is interesting. When God says hine, he's the subject. Now he's saying, instead of saying, look at me, like he did in verse 6 in the same chapter, he says, look at Avdi. Hine Avdi, behold my servant. Okay, behold, he will succeed wisely. He will succeed wisely, or he will prosper. He will wisely gain success in his endeavor. He will achieve the intended goal. He will navigate well and achieve the intended goal, my servant. Okay? Hine, Yaskiladi. This is sounding great. So this is Yahweh's view of the servant. Because it is in the imperfect, it's not just prosper, he will cause to succeed. He will cause prosperity. That's one way to say it as well. So there'll be other beneficiaries of it. He will cause prosperity, my servant, but he'll do it through moving wisely. Hine Yaskil Avdi, our attention is drawn to the servant. And in this way, we can know at the outset of this song what Yahweh's view of the servant is. Okay? But it's still in the future tense, meaning it's like it's not accomplished yet here in the song. Behold, my servant will be this.
Yeah,
okay.
Not my servant has prospered, he will prosper.
That's right. Hine, Yaskil Avdi, and then we have Yarum, he will be elevated high. Arum being the shorsh that is speaking of, so this right here is a shorsh that's saying being elevated high. And we have Rum, my servant will be elevated up. Venisa, lifted up. Now this word has the connotation of being carried or put on a pole. Okay, this same verb is used of a banner. A root of Jesse will be a banner. A tent will be raised up. Okay, a banner will be put on a pole. All will behold it. Or lifted up, like lifted up and exalted, made into a prince is one way to think of this. Okay, and then you could add a play somewhat. It would be an intralingual play on words because they can speak Aramaic and they speak Hebrew. Nace, or a lifted up thing, there's this flavor of a miracle or something like this. Okay, a wonder. Okay, lifted up in a cosmic sense, not, like there's something spectacular here. Rum, when you're talking about Yahweh and Yahweh saying, "Behold," he is speaking of something big here. When he's applying elevation to the servant, we have to think beyond just like, oh wow, he's got like a lot of sheep and he's influential. They're saying elevated kind of cosmically. There's a connotation because, and you'll see this if you go back to 57. I want to take us to Isaiah 57. It is a cosmological claim, meaning he is above us in the cosmos. He's above us in creation order. He's above us dimensionally. You're catching what I'm saying?
He's above us in every manner of speaking.
That's right. But what's being emphasized is specifically the higher order realms.
Okay.
He's an inhabitant of higher dimensions and higher places, heavens, Shemayim. Okay, he's above us. He's cosmologically advanced. He is, the idea is exalted in a kind of ontological status, like, man, yeah, it's just because 57 is going to speak about God dwelling in the Shemayim in the heavens. This servant has the exaltation and the words that are used of the servant are like otherworldly.
Okay.
Otherworldly elevation. That's probably the easiest way to say it. Otherworldly elevation, otherworldly lifted up. And then we have Vegava. Now, Gava is related to a word for being exalted or high, but also it's used for a hillock, like a hill. And so part of the idea would be the hill that's in question and that's used here has to do with Zion. Typically, it's associated with Zion. And so there's a cultic aspect.
Zion was a city, correct?
Zion was a hill in Jerusalem, and on Zion is where the Temple Mount is. It's the Temple Mount.
Okay.
So it is associated with the temple. So it's associated with holiness, otherworldliness, and the temple. Okay? He'll be exalted, lifted up, elevated in that sense. Okay? Put on a high and lofty hill. And me'od. And me'od here is like, if you didn't get it already, intensely elevated would be a good way to translate that in English anyway, so you really get the point across. Dramatically, intensely elevated, lifted up, and exalted on a high and lofty hill. This speaks to inheritance. It speaks to status. And then it alludes to something strange. It's going to be picked up later. So you see these words, rum, and what we'll do is I'm going to, just for the benefit of peeps here, I am going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to split screen view. I'm going to open up This is something I normally have set up before the video. And what I will do is, how do I do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do create a note. Okay. Create a note. Let's see what happens if I do that. Okay. Go backwards. Okay. And then, do we not have it? I want to do create a note so I can draw it and you can see it.
Right.
There it is right there. And now let's try this and see if we can do split screen. Technical difficulties. There we go. Boom. All right. My servant will succeed. Hopefully I can get some. All right, here we go. Now, what I want to focus on right here is, let's look at these lemmas, the roots right there. Okay. We have rum. Okay, so we're going to say rum. Okay, here it's yarum. Okay. We have nisa, right? Nisa, and there it's specifically nasa is the root. Nisa is the specific conjugation, and then we have gava. Okay, gava, lift it up. All right, and here we have. It's literally just. I'm pretty sure it's the call, so it's direct. It's what it's supposed to be already. Gava. Okay, it was a bad hey. Now, what I want to do is let's take a look at Isaiah 57. I'm pretty sure it is verse 15. We're going to see a description of God. And I'll make sure that 14 doesn't touch us. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is look at Isaiah 57:15, just to see this. these words are used of the servant, right?
Mhm.
Okay, these words are used of the servant. Now, see if you hear anything similar. For thus says the one who is high or exalted. Ram. Rum is the future tense, right? Yarum, he will be exalted, but Ram is one who is already elevated. Yahweh's describing himself. Watch what he uses. Ki Ram v'nisa, same adjective, same verbal form. Okay, Ram v'nisa, and then so it says elevated, lifted up. Shochen ad, tabernacling or tinting until, which means forever, until. Kadoshim, holiness, the holy is his name. Kadoshim, holy is his name. Marom, now it's noun in a high place. Vekadosh, in a high and holy place. Eshkon, I will dwell. He speaks now. He says, in a high and holy place, I will tabernacle. Yahweh speaking about himself. A way to hear our other verses, the servant is going to move in with Yahweh.
Yeah.
The servant's going to move in with Yahweh in a weird sense, because Yahweh's describing his status, where he lives and what is, and he's using all the same words.
Yeah, and the servant will join him in that place.
This word shachan, as we're thinking about, it means to tent or to tabernacle, which speaks to the tabernacle and the temple, and this idea of God's presence going into a structure prepared, right? This is where it starts to get really weird with the servant. I will dwell in a high and holy place. And also with, and he starts to say something weird. And also with the crushed. This is the word for crushed. It's going to be in Isaiah. It's in Isaiah 53. With the crushed. Ushfal, the humiliated. Ushfal ruach, the humiliated in spirit. In order to lehachiyot ruach, to revive or bring back to life the spirit of the humiliated. Shefalim, ulehachayot, and to bring back to life the heart, lev, nidkaim, the crushed ones, the afflicted. This is bizarre because part of what it speaks to is who is the servant? What is the servant's identity? One way to understand this is Yahweh is saying he dwells in two places. He tabernacles in the highest of heavens, but also tabernacles on earth with the crushed, to be near the crushed. This type of identifying, the way that people in Brit HaChadashah, in the New Covenant, in the New Testament, they would understand this. They would say that this is alluded to in John, where John says the word, the Mimra, became flesh and tabernacled among us. And when he was tabernacled, we see how he was treated in the servant song. Mistreated, treated terribly. What they didn't understand is they're treating the one who's high and lofty this way. Because when he came, he didn't have a form that we should covet him or look at him, this kind of stuff. So we now have God saying, this is my servant. He will be, this is his state. He will be cosmologically elevated. He will joining me. He'll be joining me. God himself says, behold him. Behold the servant. Okay. Are there any questions with us? This is
No. There we go. I did earlier, and now since I didn't ask it at the time, I don't remember what it was. Yeah, no, not about this particular one. I do not.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we will move on to our next verse next time. Let's see here.